Forget everything you thought you knew about cavemen and their art. The dominant narrative of male hunters creating these masterpieces is a myth. Join us as we expose the overwhelming evidence proving that women were not just present, but were the primary visionaries behind some of humanity's oldest and most enigmatic artistic expressions. Hidden beneath layers of patriarchal historical interpretations lies a revolutionary secret: the true story of prehistoric women. What if these cave women were actually leaders, healers, and innovators who shaped the very fabric of early human society? Join us as we dig deep to unearth the astonishing, untold power of paleo-feminists and rewrite her story. Hand stencils and female hands. Archaeological evidence, particularly from hand stencils found in caves across Europe, suggests that women were significant contributors to prehistoric art. A study by Dean Snow of Pennsylvania State University analyzed hand stencils in 8 cave sites in France and Spain, such as El Castillo, Gargas, and Pecmerl. By comparing finger length ratios, specifically the index to ring finger and index to little finger ratios, Snow found that 75% of the 32 measurable stencils were likely made by female hands, identifiable by their smaller proportions and near equal index and ring finger lengths. This challenges the long-held assumption that cave art was primarily a male endeavor, often linked to hunting rituals. Instead, these stencils, often created by blowing red ochre around hands pressed against cave walls, suggest women were actively marking their presence, possibly as creators or ritual participants. Re-evaluating abstract symbols and geometric patterns. Traditional interpretations of abstract symbols and geometric patterns in cave art, such as dots, crosshatches, and finger flutings, often attribute them to shamanic visions or male-centric spiritual practices. However, recent scholarship proposes these motifs may reflect record-keeping or storytelling activities not exclusively tied to men. For instance, the repetitive geometric patterns in caves like Lascaux and Chauvet could represent early forms of communication, possibly tracking lunar cycles, seasonal changes, or social events. In African hunter-gatherer societies, which are among the most gender egalitarian, lunar cycles were central to ritual and economic activities, often managed by women due to their association with menstruation and timekeeping. This suggests that women in prehistoric societies may have used abstract art to encode knowledge, narrate community histories, or mark significant events, moving beyond mystical interpretations to practical and cultural functions. Animal behavior and women's observations. Cave art frequently depicts animals like bison, horses, and cave lions, traditionally interpreted as records of male hunting prowess or shamanic rituals. However, the detailed portrayals of animal behavior, such as grazing, mating, or migratory patterns, suggest observations more aligned with gathering, foraging, or even midwifery. Women, often responsible for gathering plants and processing resources in hunter-gatherer societies, would have had intimate knowledge of animal habits and seasonal cycles. For example, Nicole Wagesbach's ethnographic comparisons show that women in meat-focused societies spent significant time processing animal products, while in plant-based societies, they focused on foraging. These roles required keen observation of nature, which could be reflected in the naturalistic animal depictions in caves like Chauvet, where non-hunted species like lions and rhinos dominate. Additionally, the presence of therianthropic human-animal hybrid figures may indicate women's roles in rituals tied to fertility or caregiving, akin to midwifery practices. Evidence of female shamans and spiritual leaders. Emerging evidence supports the presence of female shamans and spiritual leaders in Paleolithic societies. The earliest known shaman, dated to around 30,000 BP, was identified as female based on burial evidence. Venus figurines, abundant in the Upper Paleolithic, are often interpreted as symbols of fertility or earth goddesses, but some scholars, like James Herod, suggest they represent female shamans undergoing spiritual transformation. Archaeological findings from the Levantine Aurignacian, such as the engraved boulder at Minot Cave, indicate ritual compounds where women likely participated in communal ceremonies, possibly as leaders. In the Tiwa communities of the Pueblo III period, cupule shrines associated with women complemented male-dominated kivas, suggesting gender-complementary ritual roles. These findings challenge the notion that spiritual authority was male-dominated, pointing to women as key figures in religious and communal life. Powerful female figures in art and artifacts. Prehistoric art and artifacts often depict powerful female figures, such as the Venus figurines from sites like Willendorf and Kostenki. These sculptures, with exaggerated reproductive features, are not merely fertility symbols, but may represent women as creators, nurturers, or spiritual leaders. For example, the Kostenki figurines, some with phallic forms, suggest complex gender symbolism, possibly indicating women's roles in rituals bridging human and divine realms. In the Arts and Prehistory exhibition at the Musée de l'Homme, such figurines are presented as evidence of a feminine power revered in early societies. Similarly, cave art featuring female imagery, like the stenciled hands or therianthropic figures, underscores women's agency in shaping cultural narratives, challenging the male-centric lens of traditional archaeology. Gynocentric societies and alternative social structures. The concept of gynocentric societies, where women held central roles in social, economic, and spiritual life, gains traction from studies of matrilineal and egalitarian hunter-gatherer societies. Marilyn Petou-Mathis argues that prehistoric societies were not inherently patriarchal, citing evidence of women hunting, painting, and engaging in warfare. Ethnographic parallels with African hunter-gatherers, known for gender equality, suggest that Paleolithic societies may have valued women as guarantors of clan sustainability through motherhood and knowledge transmission. The absence of matriarchal dominance does not negate the presence of egalitarian or women-centered structures, where decision-making was shared. Archaeological evidence, such as grave goods and ritual sites, indicates that some women held high status, supporting the idea of diverse social organizations that contrast with later patriarchal norms. Implications for modern gender equality. Paleo-feminist research, by uncovering women's roles as artists, leaders, and innovators, challenges the assumption that gender hierarchies are natural or universal. Stephen Kuhn's work suggests that the sexual division of labor emerged relatively late in human history, implying that the Upper Paleolithic was likely a time of gender parity. Recognizing women's contributions to prehistoric art and society reframes our understanding of human potential, showing that women were not secondary, but integral to cultural and technological advancements. This perspective dismantles patriarchal narratives that marginalize women's historical agency, inspiring modern movements for gender equality by demonstrating that egalitarian structures have deep historical roots.